Good morning. This is Akashvani and I am Abhishek Mukhopadhyay with the World News. The headlines: India and Afghanistan hold talks to deepen cooperation in textile sector. DGCA asks airlines to avoid volcanic ash affected areas as Ethiopian volcanic ash reaches India. European leaders welcome progress in talks at Geneva on US peace proposals to end the Russia-Ukraine war. US President Donald Trump begins process of designating certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. And India beat Chinese Taipei 35-28 to win the second consecutive Women's Kabaddi World Cup in Dhaka. A high-level Afghan delegation met officials of the Ministry of Textiles in New Delhi yesterday to explore possibilities for expanding bilateral cooperation in the textile sector. The delegation, led by Saifullah Azam, Director General of Economic Relations, held discussions with A. Bipin Menon, Trade Advisor to the Government of India. The talks focus on strengthening Afghanistan's textile ecosystem, generating employment and improving training facilities for farmers entering the cotton and textile value chain. According to official data shared during the meeting, India was the second largest supplier of textiles and apparel to Afghanistan in 2024, exporting goods worth $68.7 million. Afghanistan imported $742.8 million in textiles and apparel globally in the same year. The visiting delegation expressed interest in drawing on India's experience as the world's second largest cotton producer to upgrade domestic capabilities. Both sides reviewed proposals for technical support and skill development for Afghan cotton farmers, facilitation of shipments and visas, and enhanced engagement between textile industry bodies in the two countries. The Minister of Textiles also encouraged Afghan participation in Bharat Tex 2026. At least 10 civilians, including 9 children, were killed after Pakistani Air Forces struck a residential area in Afghanistan's Khost province, the Afghan government said today. According to officials, the attack took place shortly after midnight and targeted the home of a local resident, reigniting concerns about escalating hostilities along the border. Spokesman for the caretaker Afghan government, Zabiullah Mujahid, stated that the strike occurred around 12 a.m. on Tuesday in the Mughal Gai area of Khost Gurbaz district. This latest strike has raised fears of another cycle of violence as tensions once again spike along the volatile border region. This follows a brief lull in cross-border violence between the two neighbors after intense clashes in October. Aviation regulator DGCA has issued an advisory to airlines and airports to deal with possible disruptions due to the ash plumes from volcanic activity. DGCA has asked airlines to avoid volcanic ash affected areas as Ethiopian volcanic ash reaches India. We have more from a correspondent.
A wind-borne cloud of ash from a volcanic eruption in Ethiopia has crossed swathes of northwest India last night, crossing Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Delhi NCR and Punjab. This has hampered visibility and disrupted air traffic as it headed eastwards across the subcontinent. Ash clouds from the recent eruption of the Haile Gubi volcano in Ethiopia are impacting flight operations. Akasa Air, Indigo and KLM are among the airlines that cancelled some flights due to the ash plumes. Haile Gubi volcano in Ethiopia erupted for the first time in nearly 10,000 years on Sunday, sending a massive ash plume across the Red Sea toward Oman and Yemen before drifting further east. Authorities are continuing to monitor the cloud's movement. Subhadra Ramachandran, Akashvani News, Delhi.
The 56th edition of the International Film Festival of India 2025 saw tributes pouring in from filmmakers, actors, producers and festival curators for legendary actor Dharmender, who passed away yesterday. The Entertainment Society of Goa, ESG, that organizes IFFI, cancelled all on-stage programs yesterday as a mark of respect, though film screenings continued as scheduled. We have a report.
Tributes poured in for Dharmendra at IFFI 2025, with filmmakers, actors and industry professionals remembering the legendary actor's contributions to Indian cinema. At the closing of IFFI Fiesta, artists paid tributes to Dharamji by singing his popular songs and waving tricolour flags on the stage, with 2 life-size portraits of Dharamji in the background. An event is being planned to celebrate Dharmendra's life and legacy on 27th of November at Kala Academy. A Manipuri documentary film called Battlefield, depicting the battles fought in Kohima and Imphal during the Second World War, had its world premiere in the Indian Panorama section. The film documents the long-term effects of the Second World War on Manipur's population. Today, the opening films are The Janitor and Dreams, while other films to be screened today are Khoya Paya, Balance, My Father's Shadow, among others. Today's masterclass will be taken by Ravi Varman of Tamasha and Barfi fame. We'll keep giving the latest from IFFI, where the magic of cinema continues. With Adarsh and Nikhil, this is Saira Mujtaba, Akashvani News, Goa.
This is Akashvani giving you the world news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on X handle at AIR News Alerts. And for details of stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.gov.in and download News on AIR app. European leaders have welcomed progress in talks at Geneva on the US peace proposals to end Russia-Ukraine war. The meeting held in Switzerland discussed a 28-point peace proposal presented last week by the United States that triggered alarm in Ukraine and European capitals for heavily favoring Russia's demands. Finnish President Alexander Stubb, in a social media post, wrote that negotiations were a step forward, but there are still major issues which remain to be resolved. German Foreign Minister Johannes said U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who directed the talks on Switzerland, made decisive positive contributions to ensuring that this plan can be accepted by both the European and the Ukrainian sides. Talking to media, Mr. Wadeful said all issues concerning Europe or NATO have been removed from this plan, which is a decisive success that they achieved. Mr. Rubio said the talks were worthwhile and expressed optimism that they can get something done. The plan pressed Ukraine to consent to handing over some of its territory to Moscow and slashing the size of its army, leaving it vulnerable. The proposal also sought Europe's agreement that Ukraine will never be admitted into the NATO military alliance, though the alliance has previously said Ukraine is on an irreversible path to membership. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said diplomacy has been reinvigorated and Geneva meeting offered some hope for Kyiv. U.S. President Donald Trump has begun the process of designating certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. According to a White House fact sheet, President Trump is confronting the Muslim Brotherhood's transnational network, which fuels terrorism and destabilization campaigns against U.S. interests and allies in the Middle East. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday directing Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to submit a report on whether to designate any Muslim Brotherhood chapters, such as those in Lebanon, Egypt and Jordan. It orders the secretaries to move forward with any designations within 45 days of the report. This move would bring sanctions against one of Arab's world's oldest and most influential Islamist movements. In Kabaddi, India won its second consecutive Women's Kabaddi World Cup in Dhaka, defeating Chinese Taipei 35-28 in a dominant final performance. India swept all 4 group stage matches before beating Iran 33-21 in the semi-finals. Chinese Taipei also entered the final unbeaten, having topped Group B and defeated host Bangladesh 25-18 in the semis. 11 countries competed in the tournament, with India and Chinese Taipei advancing from the groups to the knockout rounds. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated the Indian women's Kabaddi team for winning the Kabaddi World Cup 2025, making the nation proud. In a social media post, Mr. Modi said that the team has showcased outstanding grit, skills and dedication. The Prime Minister added that the victory of the Kabaddi team will inspire countless youngsters to pursue Kabaddi, dream bigger and aim higher. And now, before we close, here are the highlights of the bulletin. India and Afghanistan hold talks to deepen cooperation in textile sector. DGCA asks airlines to avoid volcanic ash affected areas as Ethiopian volcanic ash reaches India. European leaders welcome progress in talks at Geneva on US peace proposals to end Russia-Ukraine war. US President Donald Trump begins process of designating certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. And India beat Chinese Taipei 35-28 to win their second consecutive Women's Kabaddi World Cup in Dhaka. And that is the end of this news bulletin.